Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast, sponsored by the IBCA. We are a global podcast that shares the passion for the coaching profession. You will hear the stories of coaches from all around the world. We are covering the profession in game, outside of the game, and anything in between. As always, thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing the coaches' stories with you.
On this episode of the After the Timeout podcast, we have another great guest, Chris Snyder, Lakes High School boys basketball coach. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Yeah, looking forward to being on here.
So we kind of start every episode with what we call opening tip, and we kind of think it's one of the cooler parts of what we do because we get to learn where people came from, the things they've done, maybe some connections we might have. So kind of just tell us about your journey to where you are now, and then if you want, you can brag on your program a little bit to let our listeners in on what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm at Lakes High School up here in Lake Villa, pretty much right on the border, by Wisconsin here. So just finished up, year 14 as the head coach, so year 15 coming up, but it all started, got back, in the coaching, played in high school and all that, and when I graduated from college in '02, I was, went into the kind of corporate world, sales, recruiting, and then just had that itch to get back into it. I was like, man, I just want to get back, around basketball. I want to coach. And then so I think I'm going to get back into teaching. So after about a year of work, that's when I kind of got back into the process here of getting certified and teaching degree. Then I hooked back up with my high school coaches and programs at Wheaton North High School with Coach Nazos and Coach Ward and those great guys down there. They let me kind of hop in as a volunteer for a year, and then I was working with the freshmen, the B Bombers for a year or two down there, and then so then after that, it kind of moved pretty quick in terms of getting up here to Lake Villa. After I student taught in the fall of '05, and a job opened up mid-year at this new school called Lakes. I was like, where is this place at? I had a buddy up here. He's like, you got to come up. The position just opened up here. Something happened with the previous teacher. Kind of came up like, oh yeah, I'll go up and interview and see what happens. And then obviously he was able to land the position. Then with the idea, like, I'll go up there for a little bit, get some experience, and probably end up making my way back down, home where home is, and the DuPage area and all that. But obviously, that didn't happen. Here we are about 20 years later, here still up here. And yeah, like I said, so just kind of at Lakes, just kind of worked through the program. Brian Phelan was our first head coach, and he was very gracious in bringing me on right away to be a volunteer assistant with them. So I kind of worked on the varsity level with him, had a chance to work on the sophomore level, had a chance to be the head freshman coach for a couple of years. And then, 2009 was his last year. He gave me a heads up that, hey, I'm going to be stepping down. And that's when I the wheels started turning a little bit like, hey, maybe I'm going to go for this thing. I was, 29, 30 at the time, kind of young, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to go, I'm going to put in for this thing. And then, obviously was able to land the job and have been doing it ever since, so it's been fun to kind of take a relatively new program and just kind of help establish it, kind of build on what Brian started, and then really kind of keep taking it to some different levels. And it's just been great to kind of see the growth of the program from, the feeder levels all the way up over the last, 14, 15 years.
So it's interesting. You and I actually became a head coach at a very similar age. I was 28, 29 when I became a head coach. And, you think you're ready, right? Everybody thinks like, okay, I'm ready. I've been an assistant. I've done this. I've done that. But then you become that head coach and you kind of like, well, wait a minute. This is part of my job as the head coach or that's a part of my job as the head coach. I'm going to kind of break this up into a couple parts. Maybe what were some things you didn't think you were ready for, or maybe surprised you when you were first hired and they were like, well, yeah, as the head coach, you do blank and blank.
I just think so many of the details, right? I mean, so when you prepare for the interview, you got all your fancy charts and calendars and stuff, but just, all the, just all the stuff that goes into preparing for a season, like in terms of just getting a practice, calendar all laid out and all the things you got to account for there. And then just some of the administrative things, within a building, just in terms of, the registration for a kid, all the paperwork and this and that, where I mean, you definitely have an idea about it, but just, it's a little different when it's just you're dealing with your 20 freshman kid. Now it's like, I mean, I got to worry about all 50, 60 kids and making sure they've got physicals, this and that. So obviously, that's probably one of the biggest things is just kind of all those things that really have nothing to do with X's and O's, right? Basketball, just all those other side things here that, you need to do. They're just as important as everything. And it's something, because if you don't, it's going to make a lot of the other things much harder to do.
So, and this was actually a question that we had asked another coach, and when I was getting some feedback from that coach, I kind of had said to them, what were some questions you liked that we asked of the show, or maybe what were some questions that we should ask? And one of the questions that they jumped on right away was, when you asked me why I chose blank job. So I'm always just curious, obviously you were there as an assistant, but what intrigued you really about being the head coach at Lakes High School specifically? You had kind of mentioned, you're a Western suburbs guy. I'm sure there was opportunities to go back to the Western suburbs, to phenomenal high schools out there. So, what maybe led you to be like, this is the place I want to be. This is the place I want to be the head coach.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a couple things. I mean, just I think there was the allure of like I kind of mentioned, of just building something, kind of having that chance to really just set the foundation, for a program that can be around for many, many, many years, way after I'm gone, just to have that ability to kind of be the one that kind of set it off on its path, so to speak. And I think that was definitely appealing. But also too, just, I mean, being a newer school, solid facilities, and, just kind of from a more, kind of surface level, just kind of having the ability to have a nice gym and just good facilities, good community, all those things, definitely helped out. And then another one too, I mean, I can't ignore the fact too, it's kind of a more personal note too. I did meet my wife at the time at Lakes. We had just, got married in 2008. So part of that too is just kind of like, I'm kind of starting my life up here, right? So there's just kind of all just kind of tied in. It was just like, it just felt like, something that I wanted to really go after hard, and really, really wanted to get it. I was really excited about the opportunity. I just think it was just a lot of the signs were just pointing me in that direction.
He made sure to mention his wife as one of the appeals. Todd, did you see that? That was smart, right there.
You want us to clip that and send it to you so you can send it to
Yeah,
her?
yeah, right. I have my last checklist from her. Hey, make sure. No, just kidding. But yes, yeah.
So I want to talk with you a little bit about like your decision making process and how it's evolved over the years of offensive, defensive systems, things like that.
Yeah.
We've talked to a lot of coaches, and they say when they first start, it's really based on what they know or who they were mentored by or who they were taught by. So can you take us through that evolution for you of kind of where you started offensively and defensively, and maybe if you tweaked anything, changed anything, made improvements, or gone a completely different direction?
Yeah, no, I mean, offensively, for sure, I can attest to that. I mean, you go with what you know. I mean, because it's just when there's so, like we said, there's so much going on with this and that. It's just nice to have something that you have some confidence with, that you can just kind of roll out there. So for us, that was, a variation of some like motion stuff, where, whether it blocker mover or just 5 outs. So we tried a lot of different things, that motion thing. And then, through as the years evolved, we kind of tweaked at the personnel. So a couple of years we had some good size. We went 3 around 2 for a little bit. And just kind of kept working with that kind of mindset. Definitely had the dribble drive feel in there for a little bit. But for the past few years, we've definitely settled more on kind of our chin stuff. We definitely run a lot of that in the half court, and just play off of that. Not that we use that as a straight continuity, but there's an element of that. But we definitely also work a lot on just kind of basketball decision making and playing off of that, so creating those advantages. So I think it's evolved where, I mean, a lot of the things that kind of the core things are still there from day one. But I think it's, as with anything, you got to evolve, just as the years, because it's, it's the only way you can stay, on top of things. So I think it's important to kind of find those things that work for you, keep the one, and tweak them and adjust them there, but also being okay to say, what, that's not working. We got to scrap that, so you can't have too much pride in that, where it's, I'm going to, nope, this is the way we're doing it, but that's it. You got to, being in a public school, sometimes, you got to see what comes in the door and then kind of work with that. But we found over the past few years, and we're really kind of happy with where we're at offensively. Did you want me to talk about defense as well? Like the
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
it's always interesting to kind of I really like that because like you just see the growth, I guess, right? And then
yeah, yeah,
maybe we've had some people who have started one way and they're like, yeah, no, that was completely wrong.
yeah.
I'm gonna go do
Yeah,
this.
no, there's definitely some long conversations like that for sure with, or with assistant coaches are just driving home after the game, like, oh boy, like we gotta do something different. But you also want to fight the urge to be too knee jerk, where it's like, one bad game or a loss, like, so that's why it's important to, sometimes let it settle, take a breath, look at the film, and then go from there. But defensively, we've been, I mean, it's been man. That's one thing. I was coached that way, and we were a man team. I started more pressure, kind of out, in the 9, up the line, on the line, but over the, that probably about 2 or 3 years in, we went more to the pack style, and we've been pretty much that way with some slight tweaks here and there, just in terms of how we're going to handle ball screen this year, what we're going to do. But for the most part, we're a pack team, half court. We've done some full court stuff over the years if we've had some athletic groups, or we'll get out and press a little bit, or playing the full court. But predominantly, though, we like to kind of hold our, kind of hang our hat in the half court pack, just being really solid with that defense. So like I said, pack line with some kind of tweaks there. I mean, we still like to force it baseline, because for our program, we love that kind of that, forcing it down. We love that rotation. We love trying to get that charge. We pride ourselves in taking charges there, and we get a lot off of that. So that's one thing we kind of work that in there. So it's been fun to kind of have the base there. And like I said, each year just kind of see what we can do to maybe adjust it if needed. But if it's things are going good, we just need, a lot of times, just need to be better and get the new group up to speed with what we do.
So you talked a little bit about the year-to-year tweaks. So now I want to get down to each year.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe even like just your process of, okay, we're going to go through all this stuff, personnel, whatever it may be, to decide, okay, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to tweak. And I think that's especially important too for like coaches that take over a program, right? Or a first year coach, of trying to figure out, this is what our kids are good at, this is what our kids can do, and then putting that in there. So how do you go about that process each year with your assistants, of kind of narrowing it down to what you're actually going to do that year?
Yeah, I mean, if I think first, it's just kind of looking at the previous season, and then just kind of seeing what was good, what wasn't good there, and then from there, just who's coming back. Are we a relatively new group that maybe we need to start a little more basic there, or do we have a lot of experience coming back where we can throw some more advanced things at them there? I think that's probably the first thing there. So I think personnel is probably one of the more important thing. It's just like, especially on that defensive end, what can these guys handle? What are they going to be able to process both mentally and physically? So that's why it's nice to have just a base system. All our levels do it. Some for freshmen on up, it's kind of our basic things are being taught that from a young age, which helps. So that way, a freshman, by the time they're a junior or senior, they've got the basics down. So then from there, we can throw more of those, I guess, varsity level adjustments at them, if that's a good way of phrasing that. But I think that's kind of the process there, is just kind of sitting down, kind of seeing, all right, what do we got coming in, who's back, who's not back, and then just more importantly, just let's look at the film from last year, look at the numbers, and because if it was, if things are working well, for the past few years, we've been a really strong defensive team, so we haven't had to do much in the way of like major shifts or changes. We just fine tune as always. You got to work on some different things, but I think like I said, we're really kind of happy with our defensive presence over the past couple of years.
I do have an interesting follow, and I asked this to maybe a guest a couple shows ago, and I think so many of us as coaches, and you're going into year 15, I'm going into year 9. We look to match our personnel, we look to match the players' strengths. But I often wonder if some of the more successful coaches, also their system somewhat matches their personality. I think oftentimes, you'll see coaches post on Twitter, and I think sometimes I feel like the ones that are the most passionate about what they're talking about, it's because it matches their personality of who they are as a coach. Do you feel like any of the stuff you do often just matches your personality, what you want to accomplish on the basketball floor? You want to prevent the team from getting those looks by playing a little tighter, by playing in the pack. Do you feel at all like your team success is because what you're trying to sell to them is easily sold because you believe in it?
I think so. I mean, I think that's important in any kind of, leadership, right? Just kind of being able to like back it with kind of, just kind of how you operate. And I think, we do try to keep it simple, and like I'm a very black and white kind of individual. I don't, in conversations with kids and, athletes. So I think a lot of that is connected where, we're not going to be super, over the top with, hey, here are 90 sets we need to know. Here's, we have 4 different ball screen coverage. Like we do try to keep it, as basic as possible, but then we try to be really good at those things, so it's like we're gonna just focus on these things every day in practice. Not that it's, I don't know if easy is the right word, but it's just in the mind. Like, we just want to make it as simple as possible for the kids to pick up on it so they can get really good at it. So just like I mentioned earlier, that idea of like, hey, that's, every time that ball's in the wing, we want to have the same thing happen. Ball's going base on. We want these guys rotating this way, so guys can just get used to that and repping that. And I think that, like I said, I think that, as coaches in our program, we try to be very direct too, like that with our conversations, and not, very simple in how we communicate with the kids there. So I think there is a degree of that, just in terms of, kind of, scheme kind of match and how we, approach the day to day.
So something that Todd and I say to a lot of our guests is we like to do our homework. And I went onto your Max Prep schedule, and I mean, you may not want me to talk about the first part of this, but maybe
That's
you want me to talk about the second part. But you started last year 1-7, and credit to you, Coach. It's 1-7, but I looked at the teams you play, and they're excellent. And you kind of finished the year 13-9. So kind of maybe let's start. I'm going to break this up a little bit. Maybe what can you say to coaches that start a season, maybe not wins and losses wise where they want, and then kind of are able to finish and you guys tied for the conference championship. So, what can you kind of say to those coaches to kind of keep them in the trenches when things start not so great?
Yeah, we're big on process. I know a lot of people are. That's kind of the buzzword there, but I mean, we really emphasize, every day, just keep showing up. And I think that's so important for kids in this day and age. I mean, there's so much of that instant gratification where if you get, I mean, it's tough, when you come out of the gates and sometimes get your doors blown off right away, and it's easy to think the sky's falling and just kind of get really frustrated there. But when you start doing that, you start taking that out on the kids, right? And then that comes out in your actions and the way you interact with your players there. And it just makes a tough situation even worse, right? So I think the biggest thing is you just kind of have to, try to find wins where you can. In terms of if it's in a stat line or hey, we're improving here, but more importantly, just making practice just as kind of as awesome as you can in terms of just getting after it, not letting them see you show frustration. Obviously it's one thing. I mean, when you need to correct, we need to correct there. But, with the group last year, I mean, they were playing, they were competing. We just weren't seeing the result, right? So the worst thing we could have done was come in there and start kind of like taking it out on them for that. We just kept preaching the idea, just keep showing up, just keep showing up, just keep doing what we're doing here. And, we just got to keep plugging along because, yeah, 1-7, and then January it was 5-14. Or it's kind of like, all right, maybe this isn't going to happen there. And then obviously we went on a nice little run there. But I think that's the biggest thing is it's simple. And like I said earlier, that's kind of how we operate, is just keep showing up, just keep showing up there, and just keep focusing. He says, just keep getting better. Let's fix what we need to here. And then, with the idea that it's going to break when you don't know, that's life, right? So you just got to kind of keep showing up there with the idea that at some point it's going to shift the other way for you.
So I do have an interesting follow-up really quick before I turn it over to Todd again. And you're a human being and I'm a human being. We're all humans and we all have those doubts. When you start off 1-7, and I think this is, as somebody with as much experience as you in their 15th year, won multiple regionals, but maybe for that first, second, third year coach and things aren't going well and they kind of get that thought in the back of their head, like, hey, do I really know what I'm doing? Am I messing this up? Am I making the mistake? Are the guys not in the right position because of something I'm doing? What do you do as an experienced coach now to kind of combat those thoughts? Because we're all humans. They all happen. This is my 9th year and I still have them after a tight game we lose,
Oh, yeah.
So how do you kind of combat those thoughts for maybe those newer head coaches?
Yeah, I think first things, big place to go is assistants. If you have assistants that you can just talk with and just, vent to them, just get, if you need, because sometimes it's good to vent. Sometimes, it's like I said, it's good to be about process and positive moving forward. Sometimes, so you just have to, just kind of get it out in the air. And we had that moment this year, like we hit that 5-14 mark. We had lost to Naperville Central up at our NLK tournament. It was just kind of like, another game where we started off slow and then turned it on late. It was just kind of one of those locker room talks just with the coaches, the players that already left there. So I think that's, big too, is just kind of have your support system, whatever that is, if it's your coaches, if it's family, if it's friends, and then just have something also too where you can just get away from it as well. It's one thing to grind and make sure you're watching the film and getting things ready, but what can you do to sometimes it's just good to get your mind off of it. So for myself, it could be reading. I like to read, so maybe it's looking, getting a book, or it could be just hanging out with my two daughters, our family at home there. But just sometimes it's good to just get away from it, and just kind of see what it looks like in the morning, and just kind of recharge the battery.
I want to go into your business background, and not in terms of like buying uniforms or anything like that, because yeah, no, nobody wants to do that, right? That's one of the least favorite things. But um, promoting your program, marketing, right? Building a brand. I think that's important, especially today, right? With kids, and to help your kids succeed at whatever level they might want to go to, whether it be academically or athletically. Um, so what are some of the things you think high school coaches can do, or you do, to kind of promote your program, kind of brand for your community, but for other people to see as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a lot easier now just with all the different avenues you can do it. Obviously, with social media, there, I mean, you can get out there as much as you want or as little as you want. Just with the different platforms to do that. So we'll use that. But within our community too, we do a lot of community work in terms of like camps and things. Obviously we do like the normal, the fall, the summer camps and everything like that. We work with our feeder program. We host an MLK feeder tournament. Actually, we do that with Antioch and Lakes, like boys and girls. It's a nice fundraiser for us, but just by getting that's a great way because people come into our building and we'll have feeder programs from all over the place, so they get to come in and see our gym, see our logo. We do a fall camp as well, coming up here in a few weeks. Where on Sunday nights we bring, whoever wants to come in for, just, kind of with the idea, hey, we're going to get you ready for, your hoop season. So things like that, where you just want to be in front of as many people as possible, and then putting a good product out there in terms of if you're going to have those camps, make sure it's organized, it's professional. The kids are getting a great experience, or leaving having a great time, but also leaving with skills and tools that they can use to get better. Because I think those are the things that leads to word of mouth. People start talking about, hey, that was a great camp they had over there at Lakes. That MLK feeder tournament was awesome. He has a place up there called Lakes High School. Because we still get that a lot. We're still relatively new, where it's like, wait, Lakes, where's that at? So it's anything we can do, just to have people recognize our building and to kind of see the facilities, and it's good. And I think those are some of the the simple things that can be done to kind of help get awareness with your program.
So you mentioned some of your fundraising, ideas, the tournaments and the like the
Yeah,
actual basketball stuff. But
yeah,
I know personally, like, when you go on interviews or you talk to people, fundraising is always like, I don't know, what are we capable of doing? So you can do
yeah,
some stuff here. So like, what kind of other ideas do you have, like, or you do for, fundraising for a team? Because I think that's helpful for coaches, and
yeah,
you might have a unique perspective and have some more insight because of your business background and things you can do. But I
yeah.
think that's a tough one for coaches every year, is the fundraising aspect.
Yeah. That's probably going back to that earlier question. One of those things when you first take the job, like, oh, wait, I got to fundraise too. So add that one to the list. But, we've actually over the years, we use like I said, our camps a lot. Like, so the fall camp is a fundraiser for us. The summer camps we run, we can use as a fundraiser from one of our program. And then, like I said, that feeder tournament we do as well. So we don't have to do a lot of, in my situation, a lot of like the selling of items, the things like that. And I try to do as much as fundraising as I can that doesn't require a lot of work out of the players, right? Where they have to, on top of homework, practice, and this, that, oh, you need to go sell, 20 subscriptions to Sports Illustrated, you got to push the cookie dough, just because they got a lot going on. So like for when we run these tournaments or these the camps and things, our guys are there. They're the ones working it. They're coming in there, they're working the clock for the game, they're working the concession stand. So again, that goes back to that marketing too. They're seeing the players, the product, I guess, so to speak. They're out there working. People are getting a chance to see them. And they love it too. And I mean, when kids from the camp standpoint, the little kids don't want to see me talking. They want to see the high school kid that they saw playing Friday night. So we love doing that because it gives them a chance to work on those leadership skills. But yeah, that's a lot how we do our fundraising. So I've really tried over the years to find a way that is kind of considerate of everyone's time, but a way that's also going to, lead us to get us the money that we need to be able to do what we want. We've been fortunate that we've been able to generate enough funds to be able to do, the different things that we want to in our program.
This segment's halftime adjustments. So I want to base off something you were talking about earlier, offensive, defensively, and saying you guys have been pretty simple, pretty pretty consistent
Mhm.
in chunks for a number of years. And I'm sure you have coaches in your league that have been around a long time as well, have seen you coach, know kind of what you do. So how do you kind of go about that process of evaluating each year? Like, oh, this coach tried this year. How do we prepare for it next year because it worked for them? And making those adjustments, I guess, tactical wise against other coaches and trying to figure out what they're doing to you guys since you've been there a very, good long time and they have an idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've got a conference full of great coaches, so you got to be ready. You got to be prepared, night in and night out. It's a conference, like I said, where the coaches are going to be ready. So I think the biggest thing is just that prep, right? That scout work, just if you've got film on and you're looking at that, or if not, it's just kind of knowing what the tendencies have been in the past there and just working on those. I mean, offensively, it could be a matter of, we're just let's put, this action in, or let's put that action in here where we maybe can exploit a matchup here. Defensively, same idea, but I mean, defensively, like I said, we really try to dictate what we can there to get them off of their stuff, so to speak there. So if that means we'll switch all the actions, we're gonna blow up a ball screen. I think a lot of it just kind of scout dependent, on a game by game basis there. As you kind of go through, through the rigors of the season, so to speak there.
So the second half of every show, we like to focus on a topic with our guests, and for you, this is definitely something we have never really delved into specifically, and that's kind of the fall piece. As head coaches, we kind of all understand, what our season looks like, what our spring looks like, leading up to summer. Obviously, what our summer looks like with camps and games, etc. But then there's that fall period where it's about 75 days till the season starts, 80 days till the season starts, and what we're gonna do there. So let's start off with you've completed your summer obviously now. You sit down with your assistants to assess your summer. We'll break this up into a couple parts as well. First, how do you kind of assess that post summer of your team? Where they are.
Yeah, I think it's just, so we like to, obviously there's the team component, just, did we hit the objectives that we set out at the start of the summer? So we like to spell out exactly what we want to get done in those contact days that we're going to use. And then we just look at that, we're where we want to be with this one. This is going to take a little more work. That didn't work. So we're not going to use that because summer is great for that experimenting piece. Individually, we'll sit down with each kid, before they leave, camp, we have one-on-one meetings with each kid just to give them an idea of how camp went for them. You're also hearing from them. How do you think it went? Give them a voice for a little bit. Just kind of give them an idea of what it's kind of looking for come November and what they would need to do between now and then to improve or get into a better position or whatever the case may be. So I think that's something we enjoy doing too. Just so that way, there's like I said, simple, being open, transparent. They know exactly kind of where they stand. So that way they can choose or not to, right? They know what they would need to work on, over those next, kind of few months there. So that's how we kind of like, look at our summers and that kind of part of this season.
So I've definitely never done the end of summer meetings. I do a lot of those one-on-ones, but that I'm stealing that idea. Thank you. Um, my second part of this is, do you ever get through the summer and realize certain things or certain players maybe surprised you? Or on the flip side, do you ever get through the summer and you're like, this isn't working? I know I wanted to put this in the spring and try it in the summer, and this is just not working, and change it in the fall.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. But yes to both of those. I mean, we were lucky this, summer. I don't know if lucky's the right word, but we had a lot of players that surprised us in a good way. I mean, guys that good kids. It's just like, all right, well, we'll see what we're going to get out of them. And had some great stretches in the summer. It's like, okay, that's great to see. This guy's been putting the work in. And you love to see that. Actually happy for the kid, because they put the time in and they're seeing the payoff. Yeah, and then X and O's wise, absolutely, absolutely. Where it just, sometimes we don't even get through all of summer. After about 2 weeks of games and camp, just like, all right, let's just kind of we'll put that off to the side. That's why summer is great, though, because you get a chance to try new things out. You get a chance to see kids play, right? And we're in a situation where we have a lot of multi-sport kids, so we'll have different lineups of kids, different combinations of kids on a night in night out basis. It gives kids a chance to just be in different roles, kind of take on more of a scoring role, leadership role. So it's all a positive win-win where you just get to if you can look at it from that way, there's that good or bad, right? We're getting somewhere with it there. This is a good experience there where you can end that June window feeling pretty good.
So let's talk about like your players' preparation in the fall and what you guys are, helping them with, whether it's open gyms, fall league, whatever it may be. And then, you know, finding that balance of, okay, like you said, you got multi-sport athletes, or we have a long season ahead of us, but we still have to, you know, do basketball
Yeah,
work.
yeah, I
Um,
get right.
and, and then like, looking at it as if it worked or not. Like it was successful. This is a good idea. This wasn't a good idea. Let's try something different.
Yeah, no, we've been pretty consistent with our fall approach. I mean, since day one. I mean, we do the open gyms, just like most programs do. We actually are going to have our first one here tonight in a little bit. We like to do Sundays just because that gives a kid a chance that the cross country kid, the soccer kid, if they want to come in and play, or even if they just want to come in and shoot. Because a lot of times, hey, if you don't feel comfortable playing, you just want to ball in a hoop, just come on up. Just be around the guys. So that's why we'll do Sunday nights. Because from mine and my coaches, we don't have much going on either. So we'll do that window. And then we'll lift and condition. We'll start, like early September, and it's about like 8 or 9 weeks. We'll go through there about 3 times a week. So it's a good balance there where, because it's important for coaches too to, get home when you can after school. Because as we know, come November, you leave at whatever 7 in the morning. You're not getting home until 8 at night or something, right? So you got to make sure you can get home and, see the sunlight, so we'll do it, we'll do that throughout the week there. um, yeah, we just because we've got to get ready. It's one of those things where if you're not going to be in a fall sport, all good. If you are, all good. We definitely love to see the multi-sport athlete, but we don't put pressure on kids either way. If the but if you're not going to be doing anything organized with a fall sport, then you need to be in and working. You got to get yourself ready to play. Just going to put you in a better position come tryout time, come season time there. So we as a coach, I feel like I need to make opportunities available for kids to do that. Should they want to take advantage of that, again, that's on the kid and his decisions and all that. But definitely, we're going to have opportunities for those kids to improve, as much as we can with the the rules allow and everything.
So first of all, I agree. Sunday nights, I have found Sunday nights is probably the most successful I can get kids there.
Yeah,
And sometimes even though they complain in the beginning, sometimes my 6 a.m. shooting sessions, sometimes I can get them there as
yeah,
well. So just an interesting piece, kind of to build on what you said a little bit, and just focusing on those fall athletes in the fall.
yeah.
I know as a boys coach, there's football and there's a lot of other major sports going on in the fall. So kind of how are you intentionally kind of including them? And that might not even be, like you said, them getting the workouts. That might just be you sending them an email or sending them a message, or, how are you trying to make sure that those athletes that are going to play a big role for you in the winter are still included in the fall?
Yeah, just communicating with them. Obviously as simple as seeing them in the halls, talking to them. Hey, great game Friday, or how's soccer going? How's the team looking there? And then also just letting them know, like, hey, we're in Sunday nights. Again, definitely, like I kind of mentioned earlier, come on up if you want to run or if you just want to get some shots up. Obviously, come on up and do that there. Because like I said, we don't ever want a kid to feel like they're letting anyone down or like pressure or anything there. We're lucky because we got the great coaches at Lakes that we all work really well together with the same kind of mindset. So a kid definitely never, feels like they can do more than one sport if they choose to. So I think that's the biggest thing. Just we have a group me kind of message chain with all the kids and everything. So I'm constantly hitting that thing up there, just with the updates about when the open gyms are and things like that. But also, if a kid had a good game on a Friday night, like, hey, shout out to, so and so, touchdown catch there, things like that. So that way they know you kind of appreciate what they're doing in the fall, that you see them doing that. You're not just, you look at them more than just a, basketball player. And I think that's important too there. And then that helps them stay connected. And then, when you get back to it in November, there's just been it's not like you haven't talked to them since June, you're still on their radar, and it just helps kind of with that process.
So I'm going to tweak this one a little bit because we've kind of talked about your like assessments of each part of the season, right? But now, you know, school starts here, right? And then all of a sudden, bam, before you know it, oh, we got tryouts coming up, right? Um, so, first part of the question is throughout this whole process, what kind of data are you tracking to kind of assess progress and assess how they're doing? And, because that's obviously important when it comes to a tryout situation, right? Obviously, most times you have your best players that they're making the team, but you also have these juniors coming up or a sophomore or whatever that you got to make decisions on. So, what data have you used for that? And then I'll have a follow up about after tryouts.
Yeah, I mean, data. I mean, so we're not, super. And when it comes, like, so you're talking about like when it's time to like make a cut decision, like what do we fall back on? What kind of?
Yeah, like, I mean, these kids have been, maybe they played last year as a lower level, they played in the summer, they've
Yeah,
done fall, but
yeah, yeah.
you can only have so many on the team, so you got to make a
Yeah.
decision
Yeah,
after
for
those
sure.
tryouts. So what do you
We're
how do you
funding
make this?
100%. Yeah. So I mean, we'll usually get around we'll keep about 14 or 15, whatever, like on average, right? So I mean, as we're looking at those decisions there, we'll track some things, through a tryout session. I mean, but we're very much not. All right, everyone take 10 layups, let coach know how many you made. I mean, so I mean, we're looking at, we film everything. So we're able to look at film and kind of track things on that, those tryout sessions there. So that way, when we talk to those kids, we can give them specific things about where they're lacking, whether it's defensive awareness, offensive awareness. So I mean, in terms of fall stuff factoring into that, I mean, it's, we don't really track number. I mean, we track their lifting and things like that in terms of, so that way if they want to see growth in terms of their bench max one up, this and that, but that's not really coming into play, in terms of, a tryout cut decision, like, and that's just something that for the kid to see that growth there is important. But yeah, I mean, come tryout and cut time, it really is just a matter of, just kind of looking at those 2 or 3 days. We normally do a two day tryout window, and just kind of looking at, basically their case and that they present to you, just in terms of how they're working through drills, how they are, interacting, are they coachable, are they not coachable? And then, then from there too, just looking at what the film's showing you in terms of, are they ready? I know it's hard to kind of explain that concept there, but it's just one of those where you just kind of see it there, and and then it leads to some tough conversations. But much like we do in the summer, we sit each kid down and we tell them face to face, good or bad. Hey, you're on the team. Here's what we expect of you. Here's where your role is going to be. And then when those kids that don't make it, they put themselves out there. So I think it's on us to give them direct feedback, and not just posting names on the wall or the number system there. It just we've never done it like that. And we never will. And we do that with all our levels too, freshen on up there. My freshman coaches always have to take care of them, because when you have a ton of freshmen trying out, that leads to a lot of one-on-one conversations. But it's important. It's important for those kids, because if they want to try again in the year, they need to know what to work on.
So as we kind of move into our last two segments, the first one we call 30-second timeout. It's kind of your chance to talk about whatever you want. It could be about something with yourself or your family or your program, or something you want our listeners to know about, or turn the tables on Todd and I and ask us a question. Kind of the floor is yours for it's a loose 30 seconds. There's no referee telling you your 30
Yeah.
seconds is up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, yeah, good question for. I was looking at your list of past podcasts, and my gosh, it's a great lineup there. I mean, who's been your favorite one? Like, who's been the one that, well, for whatever reason, that BJ, because it's like someone super famous, or one that you just were like kind of blown away by? Is there one that like really stands out to you that you can recall?
Well, that's a tough question. We got
This might be the toughest question
Are
we've
we
ever
gonna are we gonna be political here, John? That all of our guests have been amazing.
Yeah, well,
You
right,
know,
right. Again,
Everybody listen to the pod. All of our guests
you were
are
like
amazing.
that you got him on. Like, you were kind of like, man, we don't know this guy. A pretty big name. We don't know if they're gonna respond and come on with us, or maybe one
yeah.
like, yeah,
I think I will answer this first by I think I will first shout out Ryan McCarthy from Alaska Anchorage. Todd and I had no idea what we were doing. And he was the first person to kind of say, yes, I'll be on your show. He was our very first episode. So I think we will always have a small debt to him.
I think he's
Just
the only one that's been on twice, hasn't he?
yes, and then he came on again for us. I think I'm just trying to go through my head. I think early on, James Jones was kind of the first D1 coach that kind of ever said, "Sure, I'll be on your show." So I think we're forever indebted for him. But I truly think I could go through my head and name so many phenomenal guests that we have had on over the years. I think something Todd and I truly think something Todd and I think a lot to ourselves is why these people want to be on our show, why they want to join us. It's truly remarkable. Especially during COVID, I know Todd, and one of my favorite stories is Jeff Walsh joined us from his hotel room at the
At the
NCAA
regional. Yep.
during COVID. So I think it's one of those coaches are so giving with their time. You never really truly understand that people will say yes just to share the game with others. But yeah, there's so many. I mean, I know Todd and I could sit here and name hundreds of guests. Lynn Dunn, Mike Neighbors. We had a guy that was an NFL strength and conditioning guy. But then truly, coach, just as high school coaches in Illinois, all the high school coaches in Illinois that want to jump on with us. And we have so many funny stories of things that have happened with guests on and off the air, with car alarms going off and kids taking food while their parents are recording and people outside. And so I try to answer that as politically as possible, but
That's awesome. Yeah.
there are some really special moments. Sorry, Todd, I feel like I rambled there.
You're good. I think the coolest thing is just no matter if it was the biggest D1 coach or a high school coach or from wherever, people are just willing to talk and they're so generous with their time. And there's just so many good coaches, and no matter where we are. A lot of times the bad doesn't gets noticed more than these coaches that are and wherever coaching their tails off and doing a tremendous job, one for their kids and really know basketball. So that's the fun part for me.
Awesome.
All right, so now I like to say sometimes this is where the wheels fall off. This is where we just have some fun, quick hit, rapid fire questions.
Okay.
This first one's not too. I mean, it could be. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to give any secrets, but something new you're looking to try with your team, or maybe even as a coach, something maybe you're not going to try it with your team yet, but you're intrigued by it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from if we're going X and O's, I'm always looking at, do we want to try some zone this year? Do we want to, go to a zone look? And not that we haven't done it before, but like I said, I'm a man guy, so I don't. That's always in the back of my mind there. And we've used it here and there, So I mean, from that could be something that's kind of always in the back of the mind there. And then we always try different things with the team, just in terms of team building, just different activities there. We're still, that's something that as a staff we'll start discussing this fall there, but there are definitely different things we'll try to do, just to mix it up so it's not always the same, pizza dinner or this or that. So, but those are some different things like that.
Coach, you're talking to two guys that will throw any type of zone anywhere at you.
Yeah,
that's kind of always the standard answer from the man guys, right, John? Like,
yeah, I know.
I'm a man guy. I don't know if I want to do so.
We want to talk some more. Yeah,
I spent a long time at St. Viator with Coach Raymond trying to convince him to play zone. I finally broke him a little bit, not a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
All right, so I'm gonna break this up into two parts because I think this is fun because we've all done this as a coach. What's like your favorite pregame thing to eat? And then maybe what's one of those like guilty pleasures, late night, you're driving home, it's like 10 o'clock post game. You might stop and eat that too.
Yeah. Pre-game, it's going to be something, it's probably something from the concession stand, because usually I'm not too hungry before a game. So me and Cap, Coach Cap, who's my varsity assistant there, we'll usually, if it's a road game, we'll go in a concession stand, get the Coke and the bag of peanut M&Ms and throw it in the go bag. And then we're eating that on the way over. Then the way home, it's going to be fast food. We've on my way from Lakes to my house here in Antioch. I've got the gamut where if I need Culver's, I can stop there. I can hit up McDonald's or that. So we're gonna if we're not going out as a staff there, whatever there, it's that's probably where I'm going to end up there at one of those places there. And then then you wake up the next morning, feeling that one.
Wait, coaches go out after games to local establishments? No way.
Yeah, it's a new thing.
Very rare, right? It's a new trend. What's your favorite type of workout? Like it would be cardio, maybe you're a lifter. I don't know, maybe you just go ball, whatever. What do you do to
Yeah,
work?
no, I mean, yeah, don't play hoops too much anymore other than just shooting around. I practice with my daughter there, but I work out. I get up, I go 5 days a week where I've got equipment at home that just from COVID just started buying stuff, so I'm able to do things at home. I love starting the day that way, so do some some lifting and then we'll do some cardio. It's just I don't know, it's just a good kind of day starter there, right? Kind of getting the hardest thing done right away there. So you definitely like doing that. And then in terms of competitiveness there, I mean, golfing's probably the thing I'll do. Not that I'm super great at it there, but it's good to get out and compete in some regard there. But those are probably the things I do to keep active.
So Todd said this to a guest maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago that someday he and I are going to have to go to all these places. But maybe what's like a hidden gem place to get something to eat in Lake Villa?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I saw that question. I was kind of thinking there. So, usually if it's an institute day and the guys are going out for lunch there, we got a little hot dog joint, our dogs, pretty solid up here in Lake Villa. It's got your, the Chicago dogs, gyros, burgers there. It's pretty solid, pretty affordable too there. So that's our go-to there, where you can sit down and get a good meal for relatively cheap there. Yeah, so right on Grand Avenue and 83 there in Lake Villa. So little shout out to them.
You're open to sponsorships too, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Marketing, right?
yeah, there you go. Best opposing gym in the conference, or maybe the toughest or the most unique, whatever it may be.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give some district love, and I love Antioch's gym. It's got that old school, just 2 level kind of deck kind of feel there, where it just feels on top of you, which is great. It's a loud gym there, and it's kind of a cool setup. I've always liked that one. And I just like I just like the separation. I've got the first set of bleachers, and then there's like the balcony with with the railing and everything. So super cool. So one of the probably might be the oldest gym in the conference, as I'm thinking in my head right now. I could be wrong there, but I mean, the building's been around for I think 100 years, so it's got to be right. I mean, based on that, but that's probably it's a nice close one too. But yeah, I always like the feel of that gym, and obviously when we're playing there, it's a great atmosphere just because of that district rivalry.
Yeah, I just played a sectional semifinal game up there, and we're from
Okay.
Chicago, and the opposing team was from Grace Lake. So let me tell you, the second deck
Yeah.
didn't have any Chicago in it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And last one. So we have the shot clock coming up, but maybe what's another change that you see the IHSA making in the next couple of years, or something that you hope they do in the next couple of years? What's maybe another change in Illinois basketball you look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, shot clock will obviously be big, a lot of adjustment to that. I mean, not that I necessarily would want to see this, but I've always wondered if they would ever mirror Wisconsin and do the 2-half approach. If they'd ever go that route. I've not heard anything one way or the other if that's even on the radar, but just we've played some Wisconsin teams over the years, and it's just a different feel to the game. So it's just something I've always wondered, like if that would be a trend that would catch on, and that they'd want to try out.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you being on today. I know our guests will get a lot out of this, and we look forward to seeing what Lakes does in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast in partnership with the IBCA. Please be sure to rate us on whatever platform you are listening and give us a 5-star rating. For more show content and updates, please follow us on Twitter at After the Timeout. As always, thank you for listening. Tune in next time for more content on the court, off the court, and anything in between.